Today I'm talking about growing up in Florida and a poem that I wrote for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary back in 2003. To give a little background to that poem and to our family, we I was raised mostly up until the age 9 in Fernandina Beach, Florida, and we lived across the street from a creek. It was Egan's Creek, which was, and then there was marshland, and then there was Fort Clinch State Park. So we played a lot in the marshes and woods, and I remember we would see alligators and a lot of spiders, big colorful spiders, and alligator eggs and so forth, but we never had any problems with snakes or alligators there. Our house, I just looked up on Zillow now, it's worth $399,000. It was a small house, 1,400 square feet. But it worked for us. My dad sold life insurance. My mom was a homemaker. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We used to go collect bottles, returnable bottles that we'd get a nickel a piece or something like that, and then we'd go out and buy Batman cards with the Batman bubble gum, the little thin strip of gum, collect those cards, and that was one of our hobbies. So there were 6 kids in the family. 2 or 3 were born there. And then after Fernandina, we moved to Jacksonville for a year, and then we moved to Daytona when I was about 10. We went to Catholic schools. We were raised Catholic. Dad would participate in a lot of the church activities. He would sing and he would do the readings of the epistles or gospel or whatever it was. It was a good childhood. I remember the wildlife, the sounds of the animals. I particularly remember there was the Whip-purr-will that sounded like this. And that's one thing I miss now. They don't have those up in Pennsylvania, but it was cool. I remember waking up in the morning and loved the smell of coffee and bacon. It was a smell of happiness and comfort. They always had the radio playing with Joe Garigiola, and we watched The Lone Ranger before school, and I forget what we loved. Maybe Lone Ranger after school as well. Dad was an artist back then. He painted oils, and he had friends that were also artists. I remember one was we socialized, or Dad socialized with Dr. Britton. His wife, Faith Britton, was a artist, and we used to go over to Dr. Britton's house, and he had a house right on the river or creek. It was nice. We had fun. He had a collection of old guns, and he was a good guy. It reminded me of Gregory Peck in the movie To Kill a Mockingbird. He was actually shot and killed probably 20 years ago by an anti-abortionist down in Florida. My favorite TV shows were Batman and Daniel Boone, and like I said, Lone Ranger. We also went to Dad socialized with Joe Carter. He was the fisherman that knew everything about the outdoors, and we'd go over to his house and play with their kids, as well as when Dr. Britton, we would play with their kids and have a good time. I remember with the Carters, they had tons and tons of toys, and I thought, wow, we don't have too many toys. Wow, they're so lucky. So after Fernandina, we moved to Jacksonville just for maybe a year and a half, and then we moved to Daytona when I was about 10. I think it was 1966. And again, a small house, 1,400 square feet. Now it's worth about $220,000. And we had a good childhood. We enjoyed it. Dad, he had friends he collected coins, so we go to these coin collectors conventions, and he did a lot of religious stuff again with the church. And at some point he went through in 73 or so a religious conversion where he, like I said before, he was a ex-Marine drill instructor, or he taught mortar instructor at Paris Island, and he fought in the Korean War and saw battle and never wanted to talk about it too much. He had nothing good to say about war. So what other friends did he have? Well, he went through this religious conversion, and he quit cussing, and he quit drinking, and he quit a lot of his old hobbies and read the Bible a lot, and he started his own prayer meetings, and he had people over that were in that community. The charismatic Catholic community, or whatever it was called. And he started having his own prayer meetings at home. And I do remember one of the friends he would have over, his name was Andy Ring. He was a young guy, married with kids, and I remember he was very charismatic, very happy, very there was like an inner energy with him. And I just realized today, I looked him up online, and I knew back then that he was planning to be a missionary in Africa. So he didn't stay in Daytona very long, just a couple of years at most. He went to Africa, and he wrote a book about it. I haven't read the book. I just bought the Kindle book, but it's called Looking with the Heart, about his life as a missionary. I think it was with Wycliffe translators in Africa. He had a lot of kids. I don't remember how many, 10 maybe, I don't know. And now he's apparently living in somewhere on the eastern part of Pennsylvania. And Dad also used to socialize with other religious people, even in Fernandina. I remember listening to, on the Wallensack reel-to-reel tape recorder, it was a mass held for the massacre of missionaries in, I think it was the Congo in 64 or something like that. And it was like a high mass where there was really nice singing, and it was very beautiful. I loved listening to that, and I remember in Daytona, we had gone back to listen to some recordings we had, and we had recordings of me and the kids talking, and we we had this terrible Southern accent. It was so Southern. It was crazy. It was funny. And what else? So in Daytona, I started working, delivering newspapers, and cutting the grass, I think, before newspapers. And then I worked at J.M. Fields, a department store, and then a gas station. Then the Hawaiian Tropic Factory, making plastic bottles and then filling them with the suntan lotions. I realized I didn't want to do that my whole life. So that's the background of our family. And let me read the poem that I wrote to my parents. And this was, like I said, in August of 03. We had they had a large room they had rented, so we had a lot of family and friends from all over the country, and it was really nice. We had a very good time. So I read this poem and gave them a copy of it when at that get-together. Here's the poem. This is a tribute to Ed and Marie by their son, Stephen G., on the occasion of their 50th anniversary. They met at a party and later would meet in downtown Louisville for something to eat, not far from their work. At a 5 and 10 diner, he would give her a flower that couldn't be finer. A gardenia flower fit for a queen. A wonderful plant. One can be seen in their front yard in Daytona Beach. It's a symbol of their love and their years together. Through thick and thin and much stormy weather. Dad was a Marine and fought in Korea. He fought the Gooks as a mortar squad leader. He can tell you from experience that war is not fun. It robs lives of many when they are young. Mom watched us kids, which I know wasn't easy. We put toads in the tub, so I'm sure she felt queasy. We had pets of all types, even a gator. She made Dad release it. If he hadn't, it might have ate her. Well, they did a good job of keeping us clean, of keeping us fed when times were lean. Mom read us stories. Of pirates, knights, and kings, so we'd play in the woods till we heard the dinner bell ring. Dad would read poems by Eugene Field and Oscar Wilde, so I always liked poetry as a small child. He would weave magic with the rhythm and rhyme, and always transport me to another place and time. It's those influences that happen when we are young that help us to grow and not be so dumb. Dad fished in the ocean. He built the boat he built. His boat he built, and it floated. He rescued a pilot whose plane had exploded. With a lot of Mom's help, Dad got religion. He gave up his smoking and his beer drinking. Dad would have meetings at home about prayer. We kids only liked that because brownies were there. Dad rescues souls now instead of downed airmen. He saves them from evil if only they would listen. Mom and Dad learned the guitar to play chord by chord so they could sing in the house of the Lord. They both sing together at church and prayer meetings to teach and instruct and pass on God's greetings. They've touched the lives of many in ways big and small. You've surely been blessed if you know them at all. So let me say thanks for your tolerance and courage, your patience and love and ability to encourage. not sure I'm going to post this video. So the story is about the toads. In Fernandina, we would watch nature, and the toads there, the bullfrogs, I guess not toads, bullfrogs, they would lay eggs, and they were laid in a string, like a gooey string, and they'd have a dot of black every inch or so, and then they would lay those in the water, and they would turn into tadpoles, and the tadpoles would turn into frogs, and we found that cool. So one time, I don't know why, we decided to take some of these frogs and put them in the tub and put water in it and raise some tadpoles. And Mom saw that, and she didn't agree. We had to put those frogs back in the water where we found them. The alligator, there was a small alligator that had been walking across the road, and a policeman had stopped, and he picked it up, and for some reason he knew my dad. Dad was a real outdoorsman, fisherman. He said, "Oh, you want this alligator?" So Dad said, "Oh, sure." And it was just a small one, 12 inches long, 10 inches long. So he put it in an ice cooler box in the kitchen, and we would feed it and clean the water. And of course, he kept getting bigger and bigger, and Dad didn't get a bigger cooler, and we'd feed him, and it would snap and make noises. And finally, Mom said, "We get rid of this alligator. This is just dangerous." So Dad got rid of it. He let it go. The pilot rescue. So in Jacksonville, there's a large naval base there. I forget the name. And their dad he was a big fisherman and was known in the community as having a boat and going out all the time. And he received a call one night. Seemed like it was late. And he was told that the two planes had crashed right off the coast in Fernandina, and they wanted him to go out and find, see if there's any survivors. So Dad went out, and he found them. He said he was, and there was a fairly strong, bright moon that night. And he said he saw a reflection flashing at him as he was in his boat heading out looking. And it was this pilot who had been on the end of a jetty and had used his raft to reflect the moon toward my dad. And my dad saw it, so he went and got the guy and brought him back. So that was pretty cool. What else? So that is my poem that I read to my parents that reflects a lot of our life growing up in Florida in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. And we survived. We had a good time. It was all good. I hope you enjoyed it.